Good morning. Welcome to the Self-Love Show. I'm Trish Wright, and this is my lovely co-host, Dawn Light. Oh, wait, actually, it's that way. Mirrors in a really different way. Sorry, y'all. I get it wrong for eternity. And we have someone really, really special to me, and who's had a lot of ripples in my life, even subtly. Miss Lola Pickett. Sorry, Miss Lola Pickett. Hi, Lola.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here, Trish and Dawn. Thank you so much.
Let me read a little bit about you. So for all of you who are watching and don't know about Lola, not only is she amazing, but she's really heart-centered and connected and has such great witchy motherly vibes. So through her courses and programs, Lola Pickett empowers empaths and sensitive folk to rewire their brains. Hold on, let me restart that again. Through her courses and programs, Lola Pickett empowers empaths and sensitive folk to rewire their brains, bodies, and behavior for internal and external resilience, shifting from self-repression and soul expression. Yes. She is the published author of The Wild Messenger's Alchemical Tarot, host of the Empath to Power podcast, founder of Empathology, an emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual resiliency training program. Her offerings blend cutting-edge neuroscience with trauma healing, herbalism, permaculture, ritual, and play to create powerful and lasting results. When she's not facilitating for transformational work, you'll find Lola on a hike, wildcrafting medicines, and loving up on her husband, kids, and kitten in the mountains of north of San Diego, California. I also just want to say right now I'm going to put in her quiz just so that you can check her out while we're talking. There you go. Tell us about empathic resilience. I know I'm tripping all over my tongue today. Someone else.
It's all good. No, I'm listening to my bio going, that is not fourth grade language. That's like graduate school language. I might need to revisit that a little bit to make it more simple to say.
It's really good. Usually I'm a little bit better. I'm just tripping today. It's all good.
It's tripping Thursday, everyone. That's all right.
Yeah.
Yes, we are all human. That's so wonderful and welcoming and permissive. So empathic resilience is something that I feel is essential to every sensitive soul out there. And I also feel that there's more and more sensitive souls coming online right now because of the things that are happening in our society, right? And so we are sensitive. We are feeling pressure of alchemical change and all of the things that are up for us in the collective. And one of the things that a lot of empaths, sensitive souls, highly sensitive people might tend to do when things are so in our face all the time is to do one of two things. One way to handle and navigate it would be to shut down and to distance ourselves, to dissociate from the intensity of existence and to, numb out and like raise his hand. Who does that when things get a little bit intense, right? Like there's all kinds of ways we do that. Social media scrolling, Netflix, ice cream, whatever, sex. There's all different kinds of ways that we can numb. And I'm not here to judge any of it. I'm just saying this is one of the ways that we can function given the intensity of life right now. The other way that sensitive souls tend to navigate the space of intensity is to forget about themselves and put their bleeding hearts into the world, touching into everybody else's experience. Also, staying very disconnected from what their personal needs are. Maybe there's a background for why that is, right? Maybe it hasn't felt safe in our life to have needs. Maybe our needs have predictably never been met, and so we shove them down. So we have this pattern of either opening up too much to other people and to the pain and sorrow and intensity of the collective, or shutting it all out, right? But there is a middle road, and that middle road is empathic resilience, where we can stay open-hearted, we can stay connected to other people for both the good and the bad and everything in between. And we connect to ourselves and our own needs and are able to honor our needs. We're able to place ourselves in the center of our own lives, which is revolutionary for most sensitive people, right? Like most sensitive people are like, I would never want to be self-centered. That's like the opposite of how I want to be. That's narcissistic. But we need, most of us who are empathic, especially those of us who are empathic, to agree that we're actually empaths. We actually need healthy narcissism to function in balance, which I mean by self-focus, self-honoring, boundaries, the willingness and ability not to become a chameleon so that we feel comfortable with other people's experience of us. So being resilient doesn't mean toughening up, muscling through life, like shouldering our way through, growing a thicker skin, which I think a lot of us have either been told we need to do or feel like that's what resilience actually is. What empathic resilience is being equipped with tools to navigate intensity and having a level of self-trust so that we can step into uncertainty, which is what this world is,
Yes.
with a lot of courage and faith. So that, in a very long nutshell, is what I mean by empathic resilience. And without it, we either stay disconnected from ourselves, which costs us our soulful life, or we shut down, which costs us our soulful life. And neither of those is a good option, right?
Right.
Right. I love what you were saying about, a lot of my work also has to do with living in your sovereignty. And our society has socialized us to be codependent. So now we're like contorting ourselves all the time and wondering why we have all this resentment.
Yeah. Why do I feel so bitter?
Why is my life not working and why am I so unhappy? And like as we contort and as we like move to fawn in our relationships, it's kind of like gaslighting. It's like we're
we gaslight ourselves.
We gaslight ourselves and we manipulate reality for another person when we contort.
We sure do.
And when we say yes, when we mean no. And that happens. I mean, who for those watching, who does that? Who has done that? I spent years doing that. I spent years doing that so much to a degree that I forced abusive relationships.
Yeah, you invite them in, and it's not like your soul is designing this trauma for you to evolve from. It's you are in unconscious agreement with a pattern because avoiding yourself and not taking responsibility for yourself is easier on your nervous system.
Yeah,
It's not like a personality flaw, it's protection.
Yeah, it is. As a child. It's patterning. We were literally just talking about this right before we started here, is like just the little tiny something, one experience can have such a rippling impact for so many. And it's hard and challenging. And that's why we all do our work in the world. That's why you've been developing your work I've been following you for a very long time. I mean, very long. What? 7
in internet years, that's like, that's 5 decades or so in internet time.
Internet time. I like that.
It's kind of true, though. I mean, and your work has really exploded. I'd love to hear a little bit about your retreats in, is it Costa Rica?
Oh my gosh. That like makes my heart do little fireworks because I just got an application from one of our guests who just got back from our retreat. She's like, I'm in for the next one, which is like, it's so powerful when we can create intentional containers to let down our guard. And not many of us have long periods of time in our everyday life. I mean, some of us are developing the blessing to have that space, but it isn't available to all of us, especially if we're still working in a job that we know isn't our calling, or we're in challenging relationship dynamics, or our family's all fucked up, like whatever it is. We need these sacred spaces to come back to ourselves so that we can build a bridge into our everyday life.
Yes.
that feels truer to who we actually are inside. It's not that everyday life is going to radically change the minute you come home from a retreat, but you are going to come back to that life more as yourself. And that's really what I designed the whole experience to be around. So to set the nervous system at ease, because almost every single client identifies as an empath or highly sensitive person in my world, which means that there's a lot more anxiety to navigate. There is a lot more need for boundaries. And the boundaries that we create on our retreat start from the very beginning. It's like, you are going to say yes to this experience with your application form. You're going to move into a process with us, and we're going to create a group container from the very beginning so that you're not coming into this foreign land with intense jungle heat and humidity and insects and sounds and all the things, with the added layer of 10 to 15 strangers. I
Yes.
want you to come in already feeling like you know each other, that you can recognize each other at the airport, that you can know that you're on a flight because we've shared where everybody's coming from and what their schedule is, and like to really be a part of this before we ever leave.
Mm.
And then we go into the power of the container itself, which is really about deep level nervous system healing. And that happens in any number of different ways. A lot of it looks like ritual. This last retreat, for example, we did at the Taurus moon, this unbelievable mud bath that I had our retreat facilitators, the curators of the space, help me find and create. And they created like the best mud on the planet. I've literally never seen mud like this ever before in my life. I'm like, y'all should turn this into a spa experience. This is for real. So it was like this dark chocolate frosting that they made. And I had everybody paint each other with the mud, and like head to toe, and take off our shoes. And everybody who was getting the mud treatment got sat in these like thrones, right? And so they're on these
Wow.
thrones. And I said, here's the beauty of this for your system. Like, your system is always seeking to close loops, right? As a highly
Yes.
sensitive being, our nervous system wants answers. And oftentimes the answers that we want and that we seek are the easiest, most habituated ones, also often the lowest quality answers. And so we want to know, like, what are we fixing? What are we healing? What's going to happen next? And I said, you can give all that desire to know to the mud. And you can give all of the unconscious things that your cells are holding on to the mud. And as the mud dries, you don't even have to know what it's pulling from you.
Mm.
All you need to do is trust the sensation of it crackling on your skin and drying, and having it literally shed these layers from you in a very physical way. You can trust that because you can see it and you can feel it and you can smell it. And so they were like, oh, yes, this is amazing. And so we did that. And then I had them all walk barefoot up this jungle path to this hilltop. And we did this circle movement practice and flung mud balls at each other and just had a freaking blast. And then walked down in solitude, in quiet,
Mm.
because something else that I know about us empaths and highly sensitive souls is that many of us just want to get it over with. Like, whatever the experience is, we want to just get it over with because it's uncomfortable. And this is one of our people pleasing motivations, right? Because if we please somebody else, we get to puzzle piece around the dynamic and create less discomfort in our own system and kind of get the dynamic over with, right? Like, if I say what you want to hear, it's over, right? I don't have to feel this anymore. And I'd rather abandon myself than have to feel the discomfort of you rejecting me. So let's take a shortcut to this. So we all wanted to take a shortcut up this jungle path, like a very real embodied representation of some of the patterns that we're living with. So everybody's like beelining it up the hill, right? And there's ants, there's sharp sticks, there's like all these leaves and spiny things. It's the jungle. And so they're like, ow, 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 as they're walking up this hill to this hilltop. And we did our ritual and our practice up there, had some fun, played a lot. And then I said, I'm gonna invite you to each play a game as we come down the hill. Are you ready? And they're like, yeah. I said, let's see how quietly you can walk back. How soft can you step on the ground? How little sound can you radiate off of your body? And they were like, ooh, ooh, this is fun. So we all like snuck down the hill and stepped so softly. And what they noticed was, oh, there's less pain here, right? I'm not like slamming my feet to get to the destination and not really present with what's happening underfoot and how my soles are making contact and any like adjustments that I want to make. And so this is one of the ways that we, on our retreats, start to repattern the nervous system to not choose the most efficient path and to break the patterns, right?
Yes.
Break the patterns. It's so powerful and so fun. And that's just one thing. We also do work with psilocybin mushrooms in a ceremonial context. That's my ancestral witchy medicine. So I get to let out my full wild witch self and call in storms and do all kinds of amazing radical things that is not quite as communicable on Zoom, right? In my virtual side of my business. Plus, there's in-person magic that happens, right? We get to gather in person. And especially after the year we've had, the year plus at this point, and this retreat was like supposed to happen last year and didn't for obvious reasons. That was so healing in and of itself, just to be with people, to be able to let down our actual guard because we had all of our safety guidelines in place and be human to human again. There's nothing like it
Co-regulation
in the
is
world.
real.
Yeah,
Co-regulation is very, very real, and we have
it's
to
very real.
vibrate with another person. Like
That's
it's
right.
very, very important for our nervous system.
It is. It is. And it's just, it's magical what happens when we co-regulate in healthy ways that are not codependent. One of the things that I teach on my retreats, because like I said, everybody's empathic and so very used to being other focused and other centered,
Mhm.
is to not caretake each other's experiences and allow for people to be in their emotions, in their healing, in their present moment, whatever is present for them. And we see this time and time again. This is like, I don't know how many retreats we've held, dozens and dozens at this point, but it's one of the most critical pieces that people take away is, oh my God, I didn't right away go and try to placate or fix what was going on with another guest. And I got to watch them step into their strength. I got to watch them be received in all of themselves without having that become this uncomfortable dynamic. You know, it's like,
Yes.
oh, this person is sad. This person is grieving. This person is in it right now. We're going to like celebrate it and hold them in that instead
Mhm.
of trying to be like, ooh, like, does this mean she's not having a good time? Like, maybe we should get her some oatmeal. Does she need anything? Like, here's a box of tissues. Like, please stop crying, you know?
This
and
is
then
when
that
you feel
person gets
someone
to
else's
receive that.
feelings.
Yeah. We don't invalidate their experience in any way.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
It's all good. It's like, oh, this is exciting.
That's
But it's like, it's beautiful.
It's
When
so
we
powerful. It is so powerful. I really resonate with what you're saying because I've learned this valuable skill also of in my own practice and in graduate school of like the neutral observer, right? And holding in the loving. It's learning to just really surrender and know that each person carries their own wisdom inside, their own, all the answers are within them, and all we have to do is witness in the loving, hold in the loving for that person's experience so they feel the full experience. It's not disconnected, we're not pulling them out of it, we're not trying to fix it or any of the things that go on, right? And when we're an empath, we want to like, we so long to assist and help someone, right? But it does a disservice to the soul if we give them the answers or if we take them out of their experience, right? And so that's so powerful what you're saying. I celebrate your work. Wow, it's so good.
Thank you so much. And it really does translate. It translates to being with our clients as coaches, right? Where we're not coming in as the rescuer. We're not coming in with all the answers. We're really holding space and asking powerful questions to almost like architect a breakthrough for someone that they
Yes.
generate in themselves. And we get worried about like, oh my gosh, well, if I don't give them the answers, then they don't need me. And what's my role then? And I wrote this article about coaching called The Sacred Prostitute Returns. And it's about how what we are paid to do as coaches is to powerfully and in a healthy way love people. And we love them into wholeness by not stepping into that role of false parent, of of rescuer, of the fixer. We hold them in that love so that they can receive it themselves, see that they are lovable as who they are right now in their mess, in their magic, or whatever part of that spectrum and continuum they're on in the moment, and then find that wisdom within, right?
Yes.
And of course, it applies as a parent too. I have 2 kids, and what you were saying, Dawn, reminds me of many moments that I've had, especially with my daughter, where she's in an intense emotional response to fill in the blank life. And instead of labeling how she's feeling, like, oh, it looks like you're upset, or it looks like you're sad, or, what are you angry about? I'm with her in it, saying, it looks like you're having some feelings. Do you want to talk about it? Is there anything I can offer to you? Right. And I don't want to label those feelings as good, bad. I mean, she might be like what seems to be rage, but then actually just really excited, right? And I don't want her to be like, oh, am I not supposed to feel this way? Or is it bad that I feel this way? I just want her to have contact with her sensations, right?
That's so crucial, and I'd like to just point out what you just said. I want to pin that to the wall. That a lot of the time we are taught to label our feelings based on our social group and our parents telling us what that feeling is. I have a correlation between fear and excitement, anxiety and excitement. Like, it's the same feeling. It's just there's one that the unknown for something that is deemed potentially bad is anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
But if you really just sit with your feelings and to really redefine what those look like for you. Mm-hmm. I have one. I'm going to take this a whole other direction. I'm so sorry.
Y'all. Sorry for what? It's all good. Let's go.
Bring it.
I just want to go back a little bit for the importance of allowing someone to self-source. So we're taught in our codependent society to do these things like, Lola, I need to fawn for you. I want to make you feel better because I'm uncomfortable with my own feelings. And oh shit, I'm not supposed to feel that way. And you're not supposed to either. Anyway, allowing someone to self-source gives them the tools and the empowerment that they need to move forward. So y'all listening, pin that to your wall too. And my question is, oh no, I've been really contemplating the New Age community for a little while now. And I know. And there's a couple, okay. I want to talk a little bit about the spiritual bypassing or the bypassing, emotional bypassing. How do I want to ask this question? There's a place where people consider themselves empaths. And what they are is just bypassing. What they are doing is just fawning and giving themselves permission to, oh, I'm an empath, so this narcissistic abusive relationship that I am in is okay. And it's a blame for another person without taking responsibility for their own actions creating situations.
Yep. Yeah, you want to hear my opinion about empaths and narcissists?
I do. I really want to.
They're the same.
I know. Thank you for saying that. Okay.
They're the same because, and this is a very potentially triggering statement, I recognize, because people who have been in toxic narcissistic relationships, you're going to want to avoid a potential truth that you are a part of that dynamic and that there's not a whole lot that's very different about this toxic person because we're on a spectrum. So how I look at empathy and narcissism is as if it's a continuum, and you have on the extreme ends, the empath and the narcissist, right? And so somewhere along the spectrum is all of us. In an ideal world, where we would want to be is somewhere around the middle, right? In this sacred, messy, juicy, lovely peanut butter and jelly meats part of the sandwich. Mm-hmm. That's where we want to be. And that means that we have to incorporate and encompass and embrace both empathy and narcissism. Yes. What happens when we get polarized within ourselves is that we create an imbalance, and nature loves imbalances because she loves to provide the solution. She likes to provide the polarity. Like, oh, you're going to be more like this? Well, hear about some of that. Let's create some wholeness if you're not going to be whole yourself.
Always
Right?
seeking homeostasis.
Always seeking homeostasis. Actually, always seeking homeodynamics, which is the dynamic state of ever shifting balance. Right. And it's
Yes.
constantly evolving. I learned that term from Stephen Herod Buhner. Genius herbalist and writer. So we're doing this, and when we get polarized, thanks to any number of things, there could be epigenetic trauma, there could be childhood trauma, it could be that you are born genetically with a more highly sensitive nervous system, which does biologically function differently, which also leaves you more susceptible to being traumatized, right? It doesn't have to be a traumatic, big T, blah, blah, blah event. It could be that you had this one incident that you think you should be able to write off in 7th grade, but it landed very deeply in your nervous system because you are biologically wired to have more open sensory gating, which means that emotional and other stimuli penetrate more deeply, meaning that you are more easily traumatized, right? So don't shit on yourself if you're like, I should be able to get over this thing, blah, blah, blah. Don't do that. I have a t-shirt that says, stop shitting on me, or don't shit on me.
Yes.
Shitting is no bueno, friends. So when we are polarized because of those factors and we become more empath-like as a response, what we are doing is avoiding self-responsibility. And we are avoiding self-responsibility in the name of connecting with the other.
Yes.
A narcissist is avoiding self-responsibility also. But instead of connecting with the other, they are blaming the other.
Which is self-abandonment.
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, yes. I'm convinced. I have a lot of empathy for narcissists because they're so desperately seeking connection that they're willing to put on a facade, a show to just get love. And I'm like, oh God, that's so painful. And the empath is contorting so deeply to get love as well. It's the same thing. Yes. Oh, Lola, over the last few years, I got out of an abusive relationship. And it took me a while to understand that I was abusive. Let me say it again. It took me a while to know and to acknowledge that I was abusive. That just because I wasn't physically harming someone, that I was contorting to do something for my partner to get him to love me, which means that I was manipulating his reality. I was fucking just gaslighting the bejesus out of him. And of course he was frustrated and angry and upset and was like, I can't trust you. I don't know who you are. Who are you? Because I was everyone for him. I was trying to be everyone for him. And I lost myself as one would, right? And this is the essence of codependency. This is the essence of, I'm going to call it as being trained as a woman, being socialized as a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, that is so brave to acknowledge to oneself, right? Like
it is so
courageous. Courageous to say out loud on a show as well. But I know you, Trish, so I know you're for it. You're all here for it.
Yeah.
It's true. It's true. And it's a very bittersweet acknowledgement. And yet beyond that admission is our power.
Yes.
Right? Because we want to blame and we want to point fingers and we want everyone to be happy and we want everyone to be comfortable so that we are comfortable. And we cannot create those conditions in ourselves through external circumstances. It is not possible. That is disempowerment.
And we have to accept that sometimes you're going to feel not great.
Yeah.
It is. And it's just a judgment that you created based on what someone told you a feeling felt like.
Exactly. And we're used to feeling like shit. Like, to be honest, highly sensitive souls have wonderful and unprecedented capacity for feeling pleasure. Do we go there very often? No, because we're trying to avoid pain and we're keeping ourselves stuck in a feeling of shit for a long, long time, right? Because we're in avoidance of that. We don't like it. We don't want it. We judge it. We push it away. We numb against it. We fight it. All the different F responses get activated in our nervous systems.
Yes.
And I was telling one of my clients in one of my empathology coaching calls last week, she's working through some of her patterns of flying away from discomfort. And I asked her, well, how do you feel? How do you feel when you do that? I feel like shit. I feel terrible. I know I should be behaving differently, shitting on herself. Not something I recommend, but she's working through this, right? I feel like shit. I want to be acting differently, and I just can't seem to get myself to do it, to act on what I know I need to change. And I said to her, well, if you're already feeling like shit, guess what? Changing your patterns is going to feel like shit too. So you might as well feel shit for a good reason. And she was like, wait, what? She's like, I have access to that. I can do that.
Nice.
It was like the best.
So I'm really into attachment theory. I'm learning about attachment theory right now. And I'm definitely, due to the childhood and due to my life, I find myself in fearful avoidance a lot. And as I move into secure attachment, I find myself just uncomfortable. Like I'm like, oh, I know that I can't do that thing that I've been doing, and I'm just sitting in discomfort. And I'm like, I have to be okay with this feeling right here. And I'm like, oh God, the feeling of discomfort is the feeling of secure attachment. Ew.
Ooh, yeah.
Wow.
This is supposed to feel like bliss.
I'm supposed to feel like the habituated patterning in my brain that shows me what love and connection is. That's what I was habituated to be. So anything that's not that, which was not actually healthy behaviors and attachments. Oh shit. I mean, it's okay if you want to acknowledge this in the world. Like, this is how it's working, and we're all doing our work right now. So So if you're like sitting here and you're like, oh God, I want to go towards secure attachment or being more sovereign or being in my yes, living in my fuck yes, like that right there might feel uncomfortable.
Guaranteed.
Yeah. I love it. You're
guaranteed. Yeah. And well, the thing is, it might feel uncomfortable and activating. It might also barely register. It might be so boring that you are seeking excitement, because that's what passion looks like, right?
Yes.
And so when you get into a secure attachment, it's stable.
Yes.
You can rely on it.
Yes.
It's there for you.
Yes.
And therefore you might go, well, I'm used to like stepping forward and then almost falling on my face. That's way more exciting. I'm not used to stepping forward and having there be a sidewalk there. Like, that's boring. That's just me walking around.
Yes. Oh, what I'd love to hear is from Dawn. Wait, hold on, this way. From Dawn, the definition of passion in just in a moment. But I also want to share, like, I'm with this really secure man right now, and I can sense myself craving chaos. And I have a tool for everyone. And I mean, yeah, I'm like, oh, well, I crave the chaos of just exactly what you're talking about, Lola. It's like I can see it because sometimes I get really quiet and I'm like, okay, I know that I want to either run away or start some shit. I can feel it inside me. So instead of creating it for anyone else, I'll do like things that create chaos in my own life that don't touch anyone else. So I'll go on like a cleanse, like a hardcore cleanse or something that just shifts things inside of me so that I can create the or I'll do something slightly, I mean, maybe it's not extreme, but slightly extreme that makes me feel like I can create that feeling of, quote unquote, I don't know, whatever you all call it, passion, aliveness, connection,
beneficial
with self.
chaos.
Yeah. So I'm creating places where I can feel that whatever it was that I got as a child that taught me whatever it is that I need to get, whatever that is. I don't have a name for it. Maybe I'll call it Susan someday or something. Who knows? But whenever I can meet Susan, that feeling, that right there, like, you can create the sensation that you want or that you're craving without roping other people into it.
Yeah.
So, can you say the definition of passion?
Well, I'm going to say this because I've said this over and over and over again, and I think it's so pertinent to our conversation right now. How we relate to the issue is the issue.
Yes.
Thank you, Ron and Mary. How we relate to the issue is the issue. So when whatever you're going through, however it's experienced on the outside, how you're relating to yourself on the inside is the true issue. And then when you get in alignment with whatever is going on inside of you around the external circumstance, then it shifts into alignment and you shift your outside dynamic because you've shifted the inside.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So what were you going to say?
Nope, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to respond to what you asked, Trish. So I've learned through, the beautiful experience of USM, University of Santa Monica, with Ron and Mary Holneck. That's where I attended graduate school. And their experience of the word passion actually is suffering. So I've heard them speak about it many, many times because it's like talking about compassion, which is coming back into unity of your heart space, right? And like being with oneself, experiencing suffering, having compassion, right? Understanding like, oh, I can be in the loving with whatever is going on inside of myself, the discomfort, the feeling of anxiety, the feeling of pain, the feeling of sorrow, whatever it may be, I can be in the loving with that experience.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a real difference between compassion and empathy that I think is really important, because we as empaths, if you identify in that way, and I really do feel like it's more of a physiological response than it is an identity, but if you identify that way, what you want to aim for is cultivating more compassion so that your empathy doesn't become embodiment of other people's experiences. It simply means that you can meet people where they are, and you don't have to be where they are to meet them.
Yes.
Yes.
My definition of love has shifted over the last few years, and it's the radical acceptance of what is.
Yeah.
So you be with them. I can just accept you for the hot mess, the hot, beautiful mess you are, or I can just, there's judgment, and then there's being with someone. And if I can have empathy and really hold myself in the places that I am in right now, like me personally, then I can have compassion for you. I can show up in those places that offer you deep, radical love and acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I'm so happy you're here. I'm just like loving this conversation. Like,
me too.
Dawn and I, this is what we talk a lot about is our own processes and the deeper layers of our own kind of like the stripping away, the peeling, because I think that it's, I don't like to use the word healing because I think that healing implies brokenness.
Yeah.
Like, and bones break and then you heal cuts and wounds and things like that. But I really believe in the radical transformation of one's belief system. So repatterning your brain and your thoughts. So we spend a lot of time thinking about, or talking about our own process and stripping away the layers of our own transformation. And sometimes, like I'll say, oh my God, I cannot believe that I created something when I was 3 years old or 5 years old or whatever, that now is playing out in this 35-year-old body. Like, what in the F? Is anyone else resonating with this? Are you guys?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I know that it's never going to change. There's 34 years of experience that I'm playing into, and I'm like, oh, I have to dissolve that or love it there. I have to love it there, not dissolve it. Same to me. Oh,
bringing it into the loving resonance actually dissolves the disharmony in the experience or the imprinting that has been there that created the conditioning, which created it's kind of like a crystalline structure in your ego, which draws and attracts those experiences to you to mirror what you believe about yourself. And then you realize and break through and go, oh, wow, I don't have to identify as that any longer. I don't have to make it mean such and such about myself. Right? Like I had this huge realization. I'll even share it vulnerably this morning. I'm having this huge realization of like an experience that I had as a child. or a young one in middle school, I tried out for cheerleading and I put my all into it. I really did. I gave it my all. I practiced all the time. It was really important to me at that time in my life. And I was coming from a broken home. Like, my parents divorced and I was going through a lot of change at this time in my life. And it was really tumultuous and crazy up to that point. But I put my all, I poured my all into this experience. And I literally, I just moved to that school and I wasn't popular. And I watched the girl that I was friends with who had a stable home life, who her parents were very involved and very awesome and very loving, right? I perceived it that way. And I identified, because I wasn't picked for cheerleader, I identified that only stable people could be successful in the world. Only popular people can be successful in the world. That is what I made that mean about myself. And I'm like stripping away these things in my consciousness. I'm like, oh my God, it's so powerful, right? Because I believed, because I came from a broken home, that it wasn't in my destiny to be successful, which is so not true. And I'm so thankful to see that about myself, right? And like, it's powerful that one could identify through an experience what you make it mean about you. If you can get down to the core of what do I make that mean about me, that's where the breakthrough exists.
Yes.
So good. So good.
Right. Mm-hmm. Thank you for letting me share that.
That's powerful.
Of course.
F that noise.
Now I get to be my own cheerleader and everyone else's, right? Like, yeah. Right. So I've graduated to cheerleader status for sure in my life.
You've been my cheerleader for so long, Dawn. You have no idea. You've been rah-rah-rahing me for a long time.
Yes. Miss Lola has too.
Oh yeah, right. I know. I got you. I got your number. I got your number.
You're the same for us, my love.
Oh, I'm just loving who's in the room. We've been shared out on like 20 pages now. There's a lot going on. Lola, you came here with a specific process that you wanted to share, and I'd love to invite you to, if you're loving Lola's work, I'm gonna drop in her experiences, her links. I'm gonna drop in her links. But I invite you to drop in here right now, because this is going to be powerful for you who's watching and who's listening, and to, really utilize this time with her. So I'm really excited for this. And I've been, looking forward to it for a very long time, like for months.
So exciting. Thank you so much, Trish. So as we get into a little bit of a play space with nervous system resilience and being more authentic to who you are in your life, we need to make that feel safe internally, or at least safer or accessible internally, before anything external has the possibility of changing, right? And so I'm going to lead you through a 3-step process, very simple. And you can do this almost anywhere at any time. And I'll share when is the best time to do this practice. And I'm going to give you another tool that I use after that to just kind of help keep myself in flow and honoring my sovereignty, honoring my energy, and understanding the flow of energy on a wider scale by tracking with the moon. So we're going to go into that in a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to teach you how to do is to balance out your vagus nerve. And before we take a trip to Vegas, I want to just explain a little bit about what the vagus nerve is. If you are into polyvagal theory, into healing, into the nervous system, you probably know about it. But if you aren't up on all of your nerve biology, I just want to give you a little rundown. So the vagus nerve, which is what Resmaa Menakem, who wrote My Grandmother's Hands, calls the soul nerve, is the longest nerve in the body. And it has 2 branches, the ventral, the front branch, and the dorsal, the back branch. And it runs and touches almost every part of the core of our beings. And there are many points of access. It controls our pulse. It regulates whether we go into fight, flight, or freeze. It determines our social nervous system state, whether we're fawning or fitting in. In essence, when we have our vagus nerve in balance, we can shift from a state of fight or flight, or fawning or fitting in, or even a freeze, into a place of being able to be socially engaged in our sovereign power and able to be agile and respond to what is present, which sounds amazing, right? Like, isn't that freedom defined? So we want to be able to cultivate those conditions in ourselves, regardless of what's going on outside of us. And I'm going to share some examples of when you would want to do this practice and then how this practice works. And then we'll do this practice together, unless you're driving, which I hope you're not driving and watching videos right now. But if you are, come back to this part. So when you would want to use this practice, and this practice takes about 60 seconds to maybe 90 seconds, you want to look for the times when you're feeling resistant, when you're starting to notice levels of anxiety, aka excitement, come online that may be distracting you from something you need to show up for or a way that you prefer to be, when you're feeling triggered or activated, when you are going into a situation that you know could potentially activate or trigger your system. This is when you would want to use this exercise, because it's going to put you into a state of relaxation, not so relaxed that you can't be present, but simply available for what is and agile in your responses. And the way that this works is because the ventral vagal, the front part of the vagus nerve, has myelin sheath to it, which means that it's coated with a little lipid layer that enables the nerve transmissions to travel faster. We work with the ventral vagal branch of the vagus nerve to create faster responses. So we're going to stimulate the ventral vagal branch of our nervous system to create more of that social, relational, agile state. And it's connected to our eyeballs, plugs right into our ocular muscles. So we're going to use our eyes to balance the vagus nerve. So if you are able to, I'm going to recommend that you join me by, first of all, clasping your hands like this, and then placing them right under the occipital lobe of your head. So right under that place where your skull starts to cup in toward the top of your neck. Just cup your hands there. It doesn't matter which hand is on top. You can't really do that part incorrectly. And it's going to be a little bit possibly uncomfortable, because if you're like me and you're on your computer all the time and you're on your phone and you're kind of collapsed in, this can open up the chest, which can feel a little like, ooh, that's a different posture. So even if you just do this part, I mean, that's going to be beneficial to open you back up, right? But the next step of this is to keep your gaze forward. So you're not going to move your head as I instruct you how to move your eyes, okay? You're just going to keep your face straight on, and you're going to look straight ahead, and then very gently, and don't strain your eyes. You don't need to like push super hard to do this. You're going to move your eyes, and your eyes only, as far over to the right as you can do so comfortably. Right? You're not going to push super hard. You don't need to push. None of my work is going to ask you to push. And you're going to hold your gaze in this position until you notice a little tiny bit of down regulation. And what that might look like is a yawn, a sigh, a little shudder, a settling into your body. And when you notice that happens, maybe even just a little bit more openness to your breath, you're going to oh so gently, and I turned my head a little bit, you're going to oh so gently return to center and then shift your gaze over to the left. And do the same thing. Don't push too hard. Just gently keep your gaze and your eyeballs over to the left. And I immediately notice that my breathing deepens with this, because I've been practicing this for a while. It may take you a little bit of time to feel the impact of that. When you're done, you're just going to return your gaze to center, shake out your arms and your hands. And before we move into step number 2, I want you to check in with yourself and notice anything that's noticeable. Sensations, physical awarenesses, how your body feels, any emotions that might be up for awareness. What I'm noticing, I'll just set an example for how you can do this for yourself powerfully. What I'm noticing is that I feel like a looseness in my chest muscles, like an opening around my heart. So there feels like there's more spaciousness right here in my body right now. I feel and notice that my spine is straighter, that I feel more balanced with where my head is on top of my spine. I'm not too far forward or too far back. I just did that backwards, too far forward, too far back. I feel like I'm more physically balanced. So just notice for yourself what might be up for your own personal awareness in your experience. And the reason why we want to do this first before step 2 in this practice is that we want to bring ourselves back to our own authentic center, which is what this state of being creates the conditions to access in ourselves. We want to be in our own authentic center before we start asking the 2 very powerful, life-changing questions that I am going to give you next. When you ask those questions and you're in a different state of being, not state of mind, state of being, the answers are not going to be as high quality, nor are they going to be as useful. So we want to be in this state of being first. So our vagus nerves are all balanced. We've taken a trip to Vegas. It's been awesome. We don't have any shame, walk of shame happening. We're actually like walking taller than ever. And then we have these 2 powerful questions, which can guide you through literally any situation with more empowerment, with more confidence, with more graciousness, with more availability to the mystery, with more resilience for the uncertainty, with more self-trust. And if you're like me, those things sound pretty good to be bringing with you in your toolbox, right? To potentially activating situations or things that you've been resisting. So the first question, and you can write these down and maybe even put these on Post-it notes on your computer or make a wallpaper for your phone with them. Put them somewhere where you can remind yourself of these questions, right? Because these are questions I ask myself all the time and that have helped me create a pretty fucking phenomenal life, right? There's a lot of other factors as well, but nervous system resilience is the foundation. So the first question is, who am I being right now? And I want you to allow the response to emerge organically. This isn't about who you think you should be, who you think you need to be, who you wish you were. This is about who you are being right now and how you are being right now. And you want to follow that up with, is this how I want to be? Is this who I want to bring into this situation? It doesn't matter if the answer is yes or no. It's information. What we want to practice is neutralizing our judgments inside of ourselves. If we want to stop pointing the finger outside of ourselves, we also have to stop pointing it inside of ourselves. It's a both and. So, who am I being and how am I being right now? Which gives you the information of any shifts that you may want to invite up or call up inside of yourself as you go into this situation. Maybe you want to be in a slightly different way, but you might not have known without taking a moment, a pause, that silent walk up the mud, down the mud hill, right, to interrupt the pattern, to make that internal connection. And you're equipped for the next question. And that question, my friends, may be the most powerful question you could ever ask yourself, especially if you are a sensitive soul. So are you ready for it? Yes. That question is, What do I need right now? What do I need right now? Not what do I want? What should I be able to do already? What do I need right now? And the reason why you want to ask that question second is because the I, what do I need right now? You want that I to be as in integrity to who you are choosing to be as possible. So you want to choose who you are being first, and then ask from that place, what do I need right now? The answer might be really simple. It might be, I'm thirsty. I need some water. I need to close the loop on that conversation I started but didn't finish. I need to change my outfit. This is uncomfortable. I need to put on a different pair of shoes. You know what? I need to get a breath of fresh air. I need to take a pause and get a breath to begin with. I need to feel safe in this situation. Okay, what do I need to feel safe? Essentially, you're going to be able to unpack layer by layer how to meet your own needs. This is self-resourcing, exactly what we were talking about earlier. Because when you know what you need and you can articulate it to yourself, guess what happens? You can articulate it to others. And you can have your needs met, maybe for the first time in your life, because you finally know what they are. You finally feel comfortable enough to request them. You do not feel attached to getting them met. But you also know that without stating them, giving voice, making concrete with the power of your alchemical voice what it is that you need, there is very little to no chance that you'll ever get it, right? Super duper powerful, my friends. If you have nothing else but the ability to rebalance your vagus nerve whenever you're already feeling in activation or dysregulated, dissociated, disconnected, overly connected, if you have that practice in your tool belt and these questions to follow it up with, you will see radical changes in your life. I promise you. Like, it cannot help but change your life because you're going to be going through life as a centered person. And what I like to tell my clients is that if you are not full of yourself, who else is in there running your life? Right? Because it is your life, my friends. As Mary Oliver said, it's your one wild and precious life. And you cannot create an authentic life if everybody else's voice is the loudest influencer in your head, right? So that is my very simple 3-part process. And to like envelope it, to hold it, and to hold yourself through your human cycling, I'm also going to suggest that you start to create a relationship with the moon, because the moon is our feelings outside of ourselves. It is what pulls the tides of the oceans. And when you think about the world that we are, because we are each a world, we are each a universe, we are each an ecosystem, our emotions are the waters and the weather inside of us. And if you think about the impact that the moon has on the waters of our world, then doesn't it make sense that the moon would have impact on our waters too, right? And so we are unequivocally and unavoidably affected by what the lunar cycle is doing. Even if you do not have a bleeding body, even if you do not have a womb, even if you have different anatomical structure, you have a moon cycle because you are a being that is alive with emotions on this planet, just like every other sentient being that's out here. Trees, plants, rocks, we all connect with the moon. So I encourage you to begin to chart for yourself. And if you want to, you can connect with my team and send us an email, and we'll send you a worksheet to help you track how the moon affects you, right? Like, what is the lunar phase? What are your moods of the day? What are your reaction patterns looking like? How triggered or activated did you get? Were you excited? Were you anxious? What were your story states, as I like to call them? the stories internally that create the state of being that then influence the story that we're living. What was your story state? And you can start to see patterns. And pattern recognition is part and parcel with liberation, because you can stop making yourself wrong for your mutability, for your changeability, for what you think you should be feeling and how you should be behaving. When you start to align that with what is naturally happening out there with just the moon, you don't need to get into all the other astrology, although I love that shit, so I totally do. But the moon is our biggest impact. It's the closest body outside of this earth. Of course, it's going to have the strongest influence. Who cares what Mercury is doing? It's a whole lot farther away, my friends. How are you feeling? Because doesn't that impact how you go about your day more than anything else? Right? So email my team. I'll send the email out so that you can post it. It's delight@moonandmanifest.com. And we'll hook you up with a worksheet to track your lunar leverage, as I like to call it.
Lunar leverage. I love that. That's great.
Can you say it again? Delight.
Delight@moonandmanifest.com, because that's our mission, to delight you. Just say, I want the lunar tracking worksheet. Send it over, Lauren. Lauren's my assistant. She's amazing.
Hi, Lauren.
Yes. What a gorgeous practice you just led us through. Thank you for that. Like,
you're welcome.
Real embodied practice of the vagus nerve. It's like rewiring the nervous system. So good, because that's it. It's everything.
It's magic embodied.
How can we relate to others in a place of like loving vibration if we're out of alignment and we're in that fight or flight, right? We can't. So it's like a really beautiful thing to know that you can do this in the car. You can go to the bathroom if you're triggered in a public place and like splash water on your face and actually do that practice. Like, it's a real tangible tool. Thank you.
You are so
I know our viewers just love this.
You're welcome. I got that practice from Stanley Rosenberg, who has written a lot about the polyvagal theory. He has an incredible body of work around this, and there's a lot of other things you can do. But when I distill down the simplicity of this practice and how effective it is, and the fact that you can take it anywhere, is just like, to me, it's non-negotiable to have in your toolbox as a sensitive person.
And embodiment is key in this lifetime.
Absolutely.
You know what I needed?
What's that?
I would love to hear what you needed, you all who are listening and watching. But I'm having a knee issue right now, which is causing me not to be able to like do the embodiment things. I love to dance and I love to hike and I love to like wiggle around, and I just like to move around. I always thought I was lazy until recently, and now I'm like, wow, I like to move a lot. But what I need is to put my leg up. But I was like, oh, I really need to like put the knee up so that it, anyway, but I really felt this place of just like the needing to be kind with myself around my non-movement. It's okay to be here. This is where I can love myself more deeply. So, thank you for that practice. And I also felt really like, oh, I'm so relaxed now.
Right? Like, oh, I can do that thing. That thing doesn't seem so hard anymore.
Yeah, type in what you got from that practice. And I also sent in ways to find Lola as well.
Woohoo!
Yay!
I'm in a lot of places. Pretty soon it'll all be at moonandmanifest.com, but that's not fully there yet. But there is information there about my lunar membership, and the rest of my work is at lolapickett.com.
Awesome. Well, I really want to thank you for being here today. It's truly a blessing and a full circle experience for me on a very personal level. And I'm so proud to support you as well. And I've just really watched you grow for many, many years, and you've been an inspiration for myself. And I've definitely sent people to your pages before, and I'm I'm so grateful that you are here.
Thank
on
you
this
so much for inviting me and for loving and watching and witnessing. The feeling is mutual. And I just, what I really want more than anything else, like the reason why I keep spreading the word on this body of work is that I want all of us who are sensitive souls to have the inner resources and resilience to change this fucking world.
Yes.
The human world specifically. We don't need to get all about Mama Gaia's business, but we need more sensitive souls in positions of power. And if power feels evil, if it feels dark, if it feels scary, if it feels traumatic, we will never put ourselves into those positions and nothing will change. And I am here for a revolution.
Yes.
So, resilience is the way.
Yes.
Yes. Supporting your mission wholeheartedly. I'm behind that as well. We need the transformation on the planet, and that means every light worker stepping into their position and role. And that's honestly why I do what I do too, is to help shine that light in the places where it's like I can be empowered here.
Yeah, we need more of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Little things around, like you can find Dawn Light and I on Reclaim Your Trust for Women, which is an amazing group. And I'm also going to thank Sign Network for running us on a whole bunch of places and the amazing community that we're building with Sign, as well as Love Coach Academy for being a mentor for me and definitely a muse. And I do want to just plug this anti-racism course that I'm taking with Bridge Feltis. And it's starting soon. There's a discount, and it's 6 weeks starting in May. And I really invite you to show up in this space if you want to make a difference as well in the world. So, find us everywhere. Yes. And I will also plug in the link for that course. Sorry, it takes me a little while.
Thank you, Trish, for doing all this on the back end.
Thank you, Dawn, for all your love and work as well. And we'll see you next week.
Yes. And thank you, Lola, again for your just delicious offerings today. You're such a gem and a treasure, and I really honor your work in the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
One last post. Next week.
And thank you to our viewers for being here weekly with us. We just appreciate and love and honor and respect you so much. If you have any kind of desire to have a show on a certain topic, please come forward and, find us, post it on our Facebook, page. You're welcome to go to the YouTube channel and see any of our previous shows. We're well into the year mark now, which is so exciting. Yes, we love this. And this is all for you, in service for you and your awakening. So please, we love, love, love feedback. So bring it. We're really excited for the next year to come and what we're bringing forward and all the new guests that are arriving, and so grateful for all the guests that have been on the show. So we're in just deep celebration. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.